it's Chris Jerkinson. So this is part 3 of Barry Harris's chromatic scale workout. Now, if you have been doing your homework, you should be practicing your major scale patterns using Barry Harris's chromatic guidelines. Now, if you haven't, that's fine. This is a good enough place to start. I'm changing scale patterns here. This one. This is still C major. You know why I'm staying in C major? Because it doesn't have sharps or flats. That means that when I'm explaining, it doesn't get confusing, right? Because anything that's a sharp or flat is going to be a chromatic note, and anything that's not is going to be a diatonic scale note. So you don't have to, differentiate between what's going on that way. So it's easier. But you shouldn't be doing it in C, because you should be doing it in every key. And but that's just your homework. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to be staying in C for a while anyways. So anyways, we're going to change patterns. That's going to be part 1 of this lesson. But also we're going to start to add in arpeggios. And once we add in arpeggios, then we start to really sound like jazz. So up to this point, although those scales sound great and they work fine, when we start adding in arpeggios, you really start to hear that jazz vocabulary start working. So that's what we're going to start to get into this time. And as we progress, it'll become more and more jazz-like, and you'll start to recognize more of that bebop vocabulary that you hear in some of that old school jazz, okay? So anyways, again, you got to get the patterns under your fingers and develop a sense or a musical intuition, like I say, for the scale. So in this scale, if we start all the way at the top, it's this one, right? So between the first 2 notes, there's a whole step in between, so you can take the chromatic note. Between the C and the B, there's only a half step, so you got to jump back. Remember, that's the guideline, okay? From here, between that and the B and the A note, there's a note in between, so you take it. Between A and G, same thing. Between G and F, same thing. Between F and E, it's only a half step away, so you got to jump back. And so forth and so on. That's the way you practice these scales. I tend to practice these in 1 octave, and I think that's a good idea. You don't, of course, when you use these as tools, you don't have to play a whole octave. You can play little bits and pieces of it, which is probably the best way to do it. And you don't have to play, 2 octaves of it either. So how you work on it is, as many ways as possible is probably best. So if you need the PDF, get it, because they're all notated. If you don't need the PDF, then you don't have to get it. But so, like I said, I sort of suggest that you definitely play this like it's a game, and if you make a mistake, you got to go back to the top. So I'm about to do this. I guarantee I'm going to splice it, because I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to have to do it again, maybe once or twice, until I can get from all the way to top to bottom without making a mistake. So if you see like a splice, it means I made a mistake, and I could be here for 10 minutes, 15 minutes until I get it right. But that's the way you do it, and that's sort of fun. And if you do it that way, you'll learn them, and you'll develop an intuition for them. Okay, so again, I'm playing to G7. We're playing the C major scale, so it's like G Mixolydian with the chromatic guidelines, right? So here we go, from top to bottom. See if you can play along with me. Ooh, all right. So that's the descending ones. Now, the ascending ones. Remember, it's the same. It's the same rules. There's B and C is a half step. Got to jump ahead. Then back to C. Okay, so let's try that. When you're ready, practice them, and then pause this video and practice them, and then come back and do them with me. And if you got to do it 50 times, that's all right. Did you do it? How many times did it take you? Did you play it with me like straight through the first time? How was it? Make it look easy, right? But because I'm gonna edit this out of the last 4 times that I screwed it up. So it's not that easy. Not that easy for me anyways, but I usually find that it takes me a lot longer for me than it takes for most people. But that's just me. But I'm just persistent. I keep going and keep going and keep going until I can play it. So that's what you have to do. So anyways, this is how you use this, right? Now, next what we're going to get into, finally, we're going to get into some arpeggios, okay? So when we get into the arpeggios, as you know, there's 7 diatonic arpeggios. I'm just playing a 1, 3, 5, 7 here. Look. Right, so you want to practice these a lot. But now I'm going to show you a trick that makes it very jazzy sounding, right? So we're going to get some different ways of playing this later on, but for the time being, look, we're going to approach every one of these arpeggios by a chromatic approach note. We're going to go like this. Note, that note is not in the scale, but it's okay because I'm playing it on the upbeat, right? All right, so let's try that. Practice them first, and then pause this video and then come back to it, okay? So here we go. Right, so these are the arpeggios. Some of them, fall under the fingers easier than the others. So I always have problems with the C major one. I don't know why. It doesn't want to work. And the D minor one is kind of weird. I play it like that. So now this is immediately going to give you a nice sort of jazzy sound. Okay, so I suggest at this point you mess around with these scales and try to combine them, and the arpeggios and the chromatic scales and any other things that you would play. So, have fun, experiment with these different sounds. If I had to give you like one sequence that you could sort of work on, let's just try this. Let's go up an arpeggio, one at a time, and then we'll go to the third of the arpeggio. So we're starting on B, so we're going to end up on D. From that point, we're going to walk down the chromatic scale. Next. That's right. The third. Next is the third. So we're next the third. E, G, right? Next is F. Third is A. So we're going to end up. Next is G. We're going to end up on the B. Next is A, end up on a C. Next is B, we're gonna end up on the D. Right, next is C, we're gonna end up on E. I hate that C. Next is D. That sounds nice. Next is E. So let's try this against the chord, okay? So I think I made a little mistake on one or two of them, but you get the idea. And come up with your own ideas, right? Come up with your own little combinations and little variations and have fun. And once you get them under your finger, like I always say it, and I'll say it again and again and again, believe in the process. Keep playing them and keep playing them and keep playing in them. And then at one point, they'll just become very natural and they'll start showing up in your playing without too much thinking. But, once you feel like you have it under your fingers a little bit, don't forget to have a little bit of fun, right? All right, so have a little bit of fun. Try to get these under your fingers. You won't be sorry, you know. You can mix these up with the normal way that you play and get a lot of new interesting and jazzy sounds. And you can't go wrong by doing this, okay? So if you need the PDF, you go to Patreon and you get it. This Barry Harris workout workbook is like, I don't know, 25 or 30 pages by now, so it's going to probably turn into 50, 60 pages or more, and I keep adding to it every time I do one of these. All right, so have a nice day, and enjoy yourself playing guitar at all times. Goodbye.